Came from the pain and made it out of Banner. Drove and see the nightlife where they call Atlanta. Southside shows for a couple dollars, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Hello! How the hell are we? Episode 61 of the Brew Party podcast is here. I'm your host that definitely doesn't fucking know the most, Andy Hopper, bringing you another awesome episode of the Brew Party podcast. So, for this episode, I was joined by one of my good friends. His name is Tone Gordon. He's the producer of the Man to Man podcast, hosted by Antoine, Bethea, and Darius Butler. If you're thinking, where have I heard those names before? Because they're NFL veterans. So this guy, you're going to find throughout the whole podcast was just one big, long name drop, one big, long list of famous people he knows, famous athletes that he's working with. He's doing awesome stuff on the internet. You can find his work. He's one of the founders of the Ostrich podcast network. They got shows like The Anomalies and his show Off the Rails with Tone and Jems, which is a great show that I actually appeared on, which is going to be coming out, I believe, today. You should go find that wherever you get your podcast, Off the Rails with Tone and Jems. Follow them on Twitter at @offtherails_pod. Follow Tone on Twitter at the Tone Gordon. At the very end of this episode, he's going to tell you a different name. He actually just switched his Twitter at this week after plugging it last week. So we recorded this last Friday. So it is about a week for me. Well, it is a week. It took me a week to get it out. Was very busy at work this week and just didn't really have time. But it's not really a time-sensitive episode, which is really cool. It's just a really just easy conversation, fun conversation I had with Tony. Super easy to talk to. So, we get into his podcasting journey, kind of how he started. He's boys with Pat McAfee. There's a great story there, how he almost worked for Pat, how that maybe still be up in the air. So, Pat, if you're watching this or anybody associated with Pat, hire the man. Get Tone a job. So he's been a day one Pat McAfee fan. We talk about that. We talk about how he got involved with DB, Darius Butler, and Antoine Bethea. And then we talk about a new project. He's helping a former NFL guy, Dwell Jackson. Ever heard of him come out? I told you, it's just one big, long name drop. We talk about how he got involved with that. We talk about what made him want to start his own podcast network in Iron Ostrich and everything. And it's just a great episode. And then he schools me on the Wnba, something we definitely haven't talked about on the podcast before. So we dive deep into the Wnba, but it wouldn't be the Brew Party without some type of technical difficulty. Like in the middle of him talking about it, my recording cut off on Zoom, of course. I was out of memory. So I definitely need a new laptop, right? I need to get a new hard drive or something, just more memory. And so I had to delete a couple things, and I was getting it all worked out, and we got it back. So there will be a little chopped up part and maybe some stuff said again, but I think I got it all fixed. I got it all put together, and I'm apologizing about that now. But I mean, how professional this show is already, that shit was bound to happen. Anyway, but yeah, so a nice long WNBA talk, why you should be watching it if you're a sports fan or a basketball fan, players to watch, teams, what the WNBA should maybe do next for expansion and stuff like that. But it's great. Tone talks a lot about it. He has 2 daughters that play basketball that aspire to be in the WNBA someday. So it's just really cool to hear him talk about it, how excited he really gets about that. Really excited for everybody to hear it. And then he's also a former collegiate athlete. So he was a pitcher, and he ended up throwing out his arm when he was 19 and kind of lost his shot at the majors. So we talk a lot about pitching. We talk about his career, his journey, and I ask him some inside baseball questions and inside pitcher questions that I think I think this interview turned out great. It's one of my favorite episodes I've done yet. I say that almost all the time, but it's true. I had just an awesome time. I think we stuck around for like 2 hours after the call, just kind of bullshitting and talking and just talking about podcasting and stuff. And he's becoming a mentor for me. He's a few years older than me. We'll put it that way. I mean, he's not old by any means. Tone, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, I'm not selling this very well, but so he's a seasoned veteran. He knows more about some of this stuff than me. So just to pick his brain for a while was incredible. So Tone, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm super, super excited for everyone to hear it. Episode 61 of the Brew Party podcast, or watch it on YouTube if you are doing that. I should say thank you so much. Go ahead and follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/The Brew Party. Smash that subscribe button, hit the bell, get the notifications so you know when we're going live, so you know when we post a new video. Join the party. Share us with a friend, ladies and gentlemen. So before we get into the interview with Tone, I figured I should talk about a little bit of sports, some topical stuff. So I'm going to start off the NBA playoffs. The play-in games are here, so we're almost through all of them. At this point of me recording, the only one left is the Warriors versus the Memphis Grizzlies to decide the 8th seed in the West. We had that crazy game. The Lakers came all the way back. They beat the Warriors, and to secure the 7th seed, LeBron, one-eyed LeBron, or Forrest Whitaker, as I like to call him, after being hacked by Draymond Green, said he saw 3 rims, was holding his eye, was touching his face the whole time, but knocked down a crazy 30-foot 3 from the Staples Center logo to seal the game. And thank you, LeBron. You sealed my bet, made me very happy. It came up on a nice little paycheck on that game. So no complaints from me. I thought LeBron was terrific. I did a guest appearance on New Music Inferno. Shout out to my guy Tight Spot. Go check that out. My appearance on New Music Inferno during the game. That's Blog Talk Radio, or find them on Twitter at New Music Inferno. You'll be able to find the link there. But anyway, on the show, I said Steph was going to have 30 or 40 points, maybe even a 50 burger like Jason Tatum put up in his first play-in game with the Celtics when they took the Wizards down for the Warriors to win. And I think he put up 37. He was unstoppable all night, but he's hit Steph and LeBron dueling back and forth was just incredible. And what a way to kick off these playoffs. God damn, I can't talk. I would take a sip of water, but I literally just knocked it over before I started recording, and it's late as fuck, and I just want to get this done. So I didn't go get some more water. But anyway, LeBron versus Steph was incredible. I think LeBron almost had a triple-double. He brought the Lakers back. His passes and his vision were pretty great. He was just giving these guys, you could see it in his eyes. He was seeing these back cuts for his teammates before anybody else on the floor, yelling at him, still hitting him with a perfect pass. So that was impressive. The Lakers, I believe they play the Suns now in the first round. That's going to be a really, really awesome series. Chris Paul's led the Suns this year. Monty Williams is the NBA Coach of the Year, just named. I think very, very well deserved. You got the young and up-and-coming Suns. You got DeAndre Ayton, who's had a great year. Devin Booker, who's leading them in scoring. And then, of course, Chris Paul, who, in LeBron's words, said has been an MVP candidate all year. I don't know about that, but he's been absolutely terrific. And in my mind, the best addition of any NBA team last offseason, because the Suns are not the number 2 seed without Chris Paul. I think I said it on the last podcast, but that's just true. So we go, and the Wizards tonight, they take down the Indiana Pacers after the Pacers just absolutely routed the Charlotte Hornets. So Russ kind of gets his revenge after playing, I think he went 4 for 16 or something like that in the first play-in game against the Celtics. Had a lot of critics saying he choked that one away for the Wizards. But so it's good to see him. Also, I bet on the Wizards -3.5, and they kind of blew the Pacers out. So your boy is getting a little hot. Maybe it's because I didn't release them or do a podcast about it. So maybe I just have to bet privately all the time. Then we have the NHL playoffs are going on right now. So, we have the Capitals, and the Bruins series is going. The Wild are giving the Vegas Golden Knights a tough time. I think the Avalanche are probably going to sweep the Blues. Sorry to my guy Grant Baker. But yeah, so there's some hockey talk. Don't say I didn't talk about hockey on the podcast. Planning on getting some stuff for the NHL playoffs done, getting a cool guest. Look out for some cool guests for the NBA playoffs next week. And then let's hit on some baseball really quick before we get into Tone Gordon. Another no-hitter. 2 no-hitters this week. First, Spencer Turnbull for the Detroit Tigers throws one against the Seattle Mariners. Mariners hitting 199 as a team this year. Does that make that any less impressive to anybody? No. Super, super, super good for, super happy, I should say, for Turnbull. Great for you, sir. Something I could never even sniff or dream of doing is throwing a no-hitter. Maybe not even in NFL, MLB The Show this year. I'm terrible at pitching, but so Turnbull throws a no-hitter, and then fucking shout out to ESPN as he's getting interviewed on like SportsCenter or like after the game. They flash up the graphic. Led the MLB with 19 losses last year. Let the man enjoy the best day of his professional career, will you? God damn it, ESPN. We don't need to be reminded of that. And then the very next day, the Klubot, Corey Kluber. I'm sorry, you all had to see that. So Corey Kluber showing no emotion like the entire game against his former team, the Texas Rangers. The New York Yankees pitcher throws another no-hitter. So I believe there's 7 no-hitters now already. It's the year of the no-hitter. It's crazy. So everybody's talking last year. Did they juice the baseballs? What did they do here? What's going on now with all these pitchers? So I don't know. I think it's obviously I love no-hitters and they're historic. But how many do we see this year before it kind of takes the shine off them, if you know what I mean? So I think Cleveland and the Mariners have now already been no-hit twice this year, which is crazy. So I don't know. I don't want to take anything away from any of these pitchers being no-hit, but I just think it's interesting how many we're seeing this year. And if people are just going to be like, oh, another no-hitter? Or is it going to have to be like a legit perfect game for everybody to like, kind of get out of their seat and get excited about it again? I don't know. On pace right now, I think, to break the record for most no-hitters all time, which, it's bound to happen anyway, so why not this year? But full capacity in some MLB stadiums. I know the Cardinals, I think June 14th against the Marlins, going full capacity. Other stadiums around the country are doing that as well. Super, super excited. Everything's going back to normal. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't got your vaccine, go ahead and do it. Well, I shouldn't say go ahead and do it, but do it if you're able to. I highly recommend it. I'm double vaxxed up, double cheeked up, double caked up on this Friday, ready for a little family vacation over to Indianapolis, taking the little guy to the zoo and the Children's Museum. If you've ever been to Indy, send me some recommendations on what to do, where to go, good places to eat, stuff like that. So this has been 12 minutes of me. This is something I haven't done on the podcast in a long time. Just me kind of rambling by myself. Well, I guess that's not true, but like this little thing, this mix of sports, telling you all that. So those are my thoughts. That's my little sports update on this Friday. Very light sports update. So let's get you into this interview with the one, the only Tone Gordon. Before we do that, please follow us on social media, guys. So on Instagram, I'm like 10 followers away from 300, trying to get to that 300 bump. Please, oh my God, I'm so sorry I said that. Please help me get to 300 followers. I won't be surprised if you don't want to after that. And then on Facebook, we're like 10 followers, 10 likes away, I think, from 400. So on Facebook, at The Brew Party Podcast. On Instagram, at The Brew Party. On Twitter, at The Brew Party. I think we're at 250 there. Please help us. Tell a friend who tells a friend tells a friend. Everybody come join the party. We're going to have a good time. We're going to build a little sports empire here. And it doesn't even have to be big. Just want to have a good time with good friends, good laughs, good people. Talk to, like I said, talk to good people. I'm rambling. This has been too fucking long. Let's get into this interview. Find the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcast. www.thebrewparty.com has all of our social media links, all of our links to listen, or the episodes are just right there. So if you're watching on YouTube, hello, thank you so much. Sorry you had to see this ugly mess, but Ferda to everybody out there. God damn it, this is terrible. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Off the Rails podcast with Tone and Jems, it's Tone Gordon. Enjoy the interview. One last big gulp of the beer, and here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. The Brew Party Podcast, episode number 61. It's another Zoom episode released on YouTube and the audio version, no live stream this time, but still going to be a fire episode nonetheless. I am joined by the host of Off the Rails with Tone and Jems, producer of the Man to Man podcast with Antoine, Bethea, and Darius Butler. Also a producer on Be a Pro podcast with Mike Pops Adams. It is Tone Gordon. He joined us for our NFL draft live stream, our resident Lions fan. Tone, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thank God this wasn't a live stream because I'm having all
that would have been great. Nice little hour delay there.
Yeah, nice little mess up there. Mm-hmm. And I probably should update my bio because so Be a Pro is kind of, I guess, like technically on hiatus, I guess. Mm-hmm. So it was hosted by Mike Pops Adams, who, as you probably know, being a Bears fan, is now an assistant DB coach for the Bears.
Yeah.
So after that was announced, we kind of put that on hiatus. But in that place, I will have a new podcast that I am producing with DeQuell Jackson called Athletes Unplugged. So that'll take that place. So,
damn, dude. So how do you get connected with all these NFL guys? That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, kind of long. You want the long version or the clip notes?
I mean, long version, whatever you want to share, brother.
It's a mangled history of like how I got here. So as a kid, I was always an athlete, but like my brother is an artist, and he was a super good basketball player, but like he's an artist by trade. He's worked for like Upper Deck, Topps, Marvel, Lucasfilms, like freelance and stuff like that. And he also just does amazing stuff. Photorealistic. So actually, I have one sitting on my desk. I happen to have it. This is like one he made for my birthday, like 2019. This is a sports card size. So I'll show you like an old. This is an old wrestling card.
Oh,
and then cool. This is like the same size, but this is a Barry Sanders that he drew and painted to one of a kind.
That's awesome, bro.
So
holy shit.
That's what he does for a living, stuff like that. And he does like pinups and all that kind of stuff. He's just amazing. So growing up around artistic type people, and my grandfather was an artist, but my dad is like really business minded. So and my mom too. And so really the two, I got a good mix match of both. So I've never jumped into anything like crazy. So like I still have a regular job, but like slowly working my way into this like podcast game and all that kind of stuff. And a couple years back, so this is where we'll get up to date, is I found podcasts like maybe 10 years ago. And then I kind of like stopped listening to them because there weren't as many out. And then I got back into them. And my wife's a giant Colts fan, so I've followed Pat McAfee for a long, long time. And then when he got out and he was like, I'm gonna do a podcast, I was like, oh sweet. I was like, I'll listen to some podcasts. So I listened to it, and I found myself with time sort of at work where I had like time where I couldn't do anything. So I had like an hour and a half where I couldn't do anything. Just my nature of my job, I deliver stuff. Like I would just have these like gaps of windows, and it was the same every time. So basically, yeah, like I ended up with this hour and a half of time. And in that time, I would be listening to the podcast, or I'd be done with the podcast, and then I just make a podcast cover basically for it. Because I'm the type of person that, well, I don't have a shirt on. I have a SpaceX shirt. I don't know why today, but but I have like a WNBA hat. Like things that I enjoy, I typically like to support in any way. So
yeah, right.
So for me, it was like Pat was big, but he wasn't to the level he's at now. And I was like, dude, I got a decent following on Twitter. I don't like just accumulated over time.
1,200, no big deal there. But
yeah.
That's
nothing crazy, but like, you know, decent size.
Yeah.
And so like I was like, the one thing that I found it really hard especially when they were at Barstool, was like no one really put links out. And I'm an Android user, so I'm like, cool. The ones you would get are like Apple like links, and I'm like, they don't fucking work. So it's like whatever. I'm allowed to curse on here, right? Good.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, there's no rules. Fuck shit. Whatever you want to say, dude.
So then basically, like from that, it was like, okay, like I want to support it, so let me figure out how I can do that with like as in kind of sort of on the Android side. So I'd post where I'd like pick up the thing out, but like I'd make a custom like cover for it, and then I'd just like make other stupid things. Like if something stupid got said on the podcast, I'd make it. I taught myself how to animate, so I'd make like these little cartoons, just a bunch of different stuff. Like I'm a person who like once I find something interesting, I like kind of want to dive all in.
Mm-hmm.
So like taught myself how to animate, taught myself how to do a bunch of stuff, and early on, Pat followed me and then he DM'd me and he was like, "Hey, do you know how to edit videos?" And I was like, "Well, it's not necessarily my forte," because it wasn't at the time. And then I was like, "Okay." And then I didn't hear anything back. And then sorry that my fan is so loud. So over time, like basically I just kind of like kept putting these like tools in my tool belt, and Pat reached back out to me again for something, and we talked, and then after that it was like kind of like radio silence. I didn't hear it much, but he would like retweet stuff, and then one day I was just like kind of tired, and it was just like my brain works really funky, and I thought of this cool merch idea, and I was like, okay, let me like design some stuff, and I designed some stuff, like photoshopped it, and then I sent it over to him in his DMs, and the next morning he was like just like tone like in like one thing. I was like, okay, cool. And then like I was at work and he was like, "Hey, like what's your number?" And I was like, okay. I was like, "Gave my number." He called, he's like, "I'm gonna call you today." I called, we talked, and he was like, I think I want to bring you on. So like we started talking a little bit. Nothing ever came of it. That's kind of like when you got like the ESPN gig and like the first like WWE run, and then just busy. And then got another contact with one of the guys at the thing, talking about potentially doing some promos when they started with the Westwood stuff, and then nothing came of that. So it was just kind of like a thing, and I'm just been a fan. So I called up one day to the radio show, and they recognized me, and then he said on national radio he would hire me. Just so it was like it kind of just like this running in circles with Pat, which I mean, the dude's obviously knows what he's doing. Mm-hmm. Clearly is just on top of his stuff, but I just kept like sticking with it. I was like, Pat's he'll either do it or he won't. It'll happen or it won't. That's kind of how I live my life. I don't get precious about things. And so just kind of like that kind of put the seed in my head, like, okay, maybe I should pursue something in this realm, and just kind of going along. And then I started some podcasts and did some podcasts. And then just out of the blue, Antoine Bethea posted something about needing somebody for graft or for like clips or something like that. So then I started working. I kind of got that gig, and it helped that I kind of had like Pat's backing a little bit, not his backing, but like that I kind of knew mm-hmm. Pat a little bit. And then from that, just had some, Mike came on the show, the Man to Man show, and then we kind of connected, and then from that we did his show. And then from his show, we did losing my thing here. And then we from his show we did what else did we do from there? So from his show, then I got connected through DeQuell, and then also like kind of like a double man to man, and Mike kind of connected me, and then it's just been kind of off the races. It's been like word of mouth basically. So
and that's so crazy. So you taught yourself how to do all this shit. And you're like, yeah, I'm casually a producer for 3 NFL veterans. And Pat, I can't even imagine waking up to a DM from Pat McAfee that's just your name in all caps. Oh my God. And then, he already says Tone all the time on the show. So I can hear it in my head. Tone. Oh my God, man. That's so cool. So I started listening to McAfee because every morning my mom listens to the Bob and Tom show.
Yeah.
And he would always go on there. And so when he retired, she was like, "Oh, did you see Pat McAfee guy retired? Oh, the punter for the Colts." I'm like, "Oh yeah." And I started following him, and I was already like a Barstool fan from, PMT and stuff like that. And just what he's been able to do in this short time span has been absolutely incredible. But that's such a cool story, bro. So you're the producer, you get to be in kind of like, I saw your tweet the other day, you're a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
all these conversations. Like, what's your favorite part about working with these guys? How much extra football knowledge have you gained just from sitting in on these interviews they do?
A lot, to be honest with you. It's an interesting scenario, because especially like I'm sometimes it's like I'm producing remotely, sometimes it's like, but like most of the time it's like, especially the interviews, I'm like here because we do them like pre-recorded and stuff. The live ones are the mostly the remote producing stuff, because it's like it's pretty much a setup live show. It's they got a well-oiled machine. We've really kind of streamlined that, and those are super fun. So like if anyone's listening, pretty much every Monday and Thursday at 11 Eastern, the man-to-man guys go live for about an hour, and then we kind of send everybody over to Pat's show afterwards, because it's like starting right then. But it's like it's a fun little setup, and they take a lot of listeners' questions and a lot of interaction. It's super fun. But just being able to sit there and like even some of the like the pre-interaction, just like, I mean, you really have to like, I mean, I'm not a starstrucky type person anyway, but like,
Right.
You find yourself in some interesting situations where like, I'm on the stream, I'm waiting for AB or DB or both to show up, and then we've sent out the links, and like the guest shows up first. So like I'm sitting there talking for 10 minutes with Reggie Wayne, just like, it's like, you're like,
That's
okay, cool,
insane, dude. That's so
like,
cool. I am a starstruck person. So it'd be like, hi Reggie. Yeah. Or
it's an interesting thing, because you're just like, yeah, you're like, you're there, and the thing I've definitely taken from both Darius and Antoine, and even DeQuell, as we're starting his hasn't come out yet, but we just recorded a first episode, and so that'll be coming pretty shortly, is just how much like me and you they are. Like they are very much like, they talk sports, they enjoy it, that like the friendly competitions, the wisecracking, like they're very much like us. They just happen to have done something that 0.01% of the population has gone through. But they are incredibly intelligent when it comes to formations, and like you pick stuff up. Like, I mean, I definitely picked up like things where like watching football, like even last year, like as we got into the season, like, I mean, I watched it slightly different. It was like, okay, like that's why that happened, this is why this happened, and Darius does a really good job in real time to break some stuff down, throws it up on his Twitter, everything DB and stuff like that. So he breaks it down really good to like actually like where like an actual fan, like who might not have like a ton of in-depth knowledge, can like understand it and understand the way it is. But like him, and I mean, it's not surprising why Darius and Antoine had long careers in the NFL. I mean, both of them are incredibly intelligent about what they did,
yeah, absolutely, man. So one thing I'm also curious about is you said you taught yourself how to do this stuff. Do you have like a
Yeah.
method to the madness for teaching yourself? Like, is it just kind of like throw yourself in and like see what you can do, or do you watch YouTube videos? Like, take me into this a little bit. I'm very curious.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. So I've always been I would probably be a zillionaire if I had YouTube when I was a child. Just because I've always been dive in, try to figure it out. My brain's always worked very like creatively and business-like. So I wish I had it down here. I don't actually have it down here, but up in my room I have a Beckett from, I guess when LeBron James was like a high school senior. Beckett, you know what Beckett is? So Beckett was back. Now we're back in the trading card world kind of now, but Beckett was like basically like these monthly price guides that would come out, and like it so you'd get baseball or basketball or whatever, and it'd have all the sets and like what every player was cost, and so you could kind of go trade them or sell them or whatever. And so me and my brother would do these like card shows and stuff. Well, my brother's artistic as shit, like as I showed you, and he was doing these art pieces for this guy, and he was like reproducing and selling basically as cards. And then his kind of relationship with that guy went sour because it was like he wasn't putting them out fast enough. And he was like, hey, he's like, I'm doing these art and like they're not really printed well. And like we're trying to like, so he was like, my brother was like, I don't know what he's like, I thought that was gonna be a thing. And I was just like, we can do this ourselves. Like we can just print them, whatever. And so we started printing cards. At that point it was like prints. So like we'd maybe make like a 500 run. Like so we do the art and then we'd like we design the cards and then we print them. And then back then we would actually get them graded because you can get them graded like on official cards. So we ended up with the two biggest non-licensed LeBron James cards when he was in high school, and they're printed in Beckett, which is like the pinnacle of everything. They did like a special collector LeBron James one, and like we're the top two cards. Like one I drew, one he drew, and so like just those kind of things, like seeing how like you're like at a younger age. I mean, I guess I was like 17 at the time, but it was like, I mean, this was like the height of eBay starting. We were throwing those things up. Things were selling. We had like $5,000, $10,000 nights. Like we were just like raking in cash. Like, so like we had our own business basically. My brother was 20, I was like 17, and we were just doing it. And so I saw from the creation to the implementation to, you know, the finished sale, like what it looks like. And just like, that's kind of just always been my mentality on everything. I'm like, if I have an interest in something, I can look at it. And I've said it a couple times on podcasts. I speak very strangely sometimes when we get in this because it's like I don't think like I think a lot of normal people. But like if you're looking at a picture and you're looking at it flat, imagine like turning it sideways and seeing the depth of layers. That's kind of like how I think of things. So I'm like, okay, like a picture when you're looking at it, like even you now, like I'm looking at you on the screen. Well, you have a microphone in front of you, so that's the closest thing to me. Then behind you is your shadow. Behind you is a wall. Behind you is that flag. Like my brain just does that with everything. So it's like, okay, how can I do this? How can I do that? And then once I start figuring those things out, I can kind of piece it together because I have the picture in my head. Right. I know what it's supposed to look like. And so it's like, how do I achieve that look? So then I dive into like things like YouTube and I'll be like, okay, what system can I do this on? What can I do this on? And so sometimes the process is like my own process. It's a created process that no one does. Like a lot of people be like, oh, I do Adobe Premiere. I do this, I do that. I don't use any of that. Like that's a standard, but it's like, I do what makes sense for me. Maybe it's this app and then it converts into this thing and then I throw it onto here and then like, but it works.
How high are you right now with that whole the depth of everything?
I don't do drugs.
I know. It was a joke, but at a certain point, I'm like, I felt like, you know what I felt like that fucking that it's actually my header on Twitter where it's Pat, like when he was talking to Bill Nye, where he's just like so confused. That was incredible, dude. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
It does. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm like,
no, but I did the way you broke it down, the depth of everything. I do. That's a very cool and very way smarter than me way to think about anything.
I think that's anything though. Like when you talk to comedians, and I know you're a comedy fan.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I feel it's the same way. Like, I mean, like jokes are like kind of set up in a tiered way. Like you want to hit them here, then you hit them here, and then you hit them, set them up to here, then you hit them. So it's like, it's just a turning of how you visualize it.
Right.
To make it kind of like everything has got to lay on top of itself, you know, to create the picture.
So who's the better artist between you and your brother? Because you said you guys were the top two cards.
He's so much better than me. I called him on the podcast. Actually, as a matter of fact, I think the podcast that is coming out Monday, which has you on it. We like talked for like 30 minutes, I think, beforehand, before you hop on. And I actually called him and like we were talking about, I was like, hey, will you do the show? Just like I put him on the spot on the phone. And he was like, yeah. And then Jems actually, it was like you're a good artist. And then my brother was like, oh, he's just as good as me. Like he says it all the time. It's like, if you stuck with it and you just like did it every day, like you could, which maybe is true, but at the same time, it's like, he's so phenomenal. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Like, I mean, and if anyone wants to check him out, it's go on Instagram. It's Naj Fotra. It's Art of John backwards. It's NOJFOTRA. And you'll see, I mean, it's stupid how he's like sponsored. He gets like free sketchbooks and like free paint markers. And I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, but you could be just as good, dude. That's awesome. That's awesome, man. So one thing I haven't asked you about yet, that you are a part of, and I'm not sure if you're the founder or not, the Iron Ostrich Network.
I'm
Yeah.
one of the founders. Yeah, one of the founders. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that. It's podcast networks. It's like you Off the Rails with Tone and Jems. You have the Anomalies on there, which is a great show. Just let's talk about the ION for a little bit.
Yeah. So kind of birthed out of sort of off the rails. We had Tanner on. He goes by Vanilla Gorilla on Twitter, and he's like the technical host, I guess, of the Anomalies. And so we were just talking, and we were like, like we need it. We kind of like, what do we do? Like, we have us two people. You guys have your 5 people. It's like, we're doing it alone, but like we're also like kind of always like in communication with each other anyway. We're like, hey, like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? So then we kind of like had him on the podcast, and we talking, and then after the podcast we were talking, and we were like, man, like maybe we should do this as like a network. Like we should, because we all have these kind of like weird like network of people that we have, and like we were like, we could probably create some stuff. And like I had this idea for the show called Who Shows It Anyway, which is basically like a hodgepodge. You take 2 people each week from any of the shows on the network, and then throw them in, give them a random topic, and they talk about it. So it's a different host every week, different 2 hosts every week, and then different topic. And it's like fun stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then, we got some other, we got Bacon Focus, which is like a comedy podcast, which is coming up, which he's already put out some, but it's Rich Regan's. Rich Regan's.
Yeah, he's really funny. I love.
Yeah, so he's done like a couple episodes, and then he kind of took a like hiatus from it, because he had like travel in between, and the connection just wasn't good where he was at. So we waited for him to get back. We got a couple of those in the can. I'm just having some issues getting that on Apple, and then we're gonna have that out because I want to make sure it's got the best chance to grow. But he's already had some good guests. He's had McComas on, a couple other guys. So
Uncle Todd,
definitely, yeah, Uncle Todd's great. So yeah, so we have I don't know, we created it basically to be like, hey, like we know how to do a lot of stuff, and like some of our friends like are really funny and good people, and like have a potential thought process in mind of like what they would do for a podcast, but they just don't know how to do all the technical pieces. So between the 7 of us, we pretty much have that locked down. So we have like 2 producers, got a couple people with like the ability to do graphics, and then we got like a couple other guys that are just all around like kind of like little Swiss Army knives basically. So it's like we have a good little connection, and so we've finally formed it, and we're really like just getting started basically. But it's been fun. It's also something that like I really wanted to do, basically off the spurs of like kind of not losing the Mike podcast, the Be a Pro podcast, but like I was like, you know what, some of these guys could get hired. I am working with people that could get hired to go work. So it's like, if I lost everything, say everyone went and got hired and no one was doing podcasts, then I'm back at square one. So I was like, okay, in the meantime, I'll also put some of this investment into like myself as well, and like grow that avenue in case that is the case, But luckily some of these guys are, I mean, they're just crushing it in the media game. I can't imagine that some of these guys are gonna go coach, just because it's like they're having a lot of fun in the media game, and they're also like, they are enjoying being able to drop an F-bomb, you know what I mean, on a podcast, so it's funny. It's very interesting, and coaching is a rough gig, it's not for everybody.
Oh yeah, I have a buddy that actually just graduated from Western Illinois University, but he was a grad assistant for them, and before that he was a student manager at Ball State for the basketball team so he's been in college basketball for the last 5-6 years, and
yeah,
he had the opportunity to potentially take a job in college basketball. He was like, dude, I don't know if I want to do it. It's like the coaching, and it's like, especially at that college level, it's like you could literally be like, you have no job security almost. Like, it's like, I don't know if I want to pack up and move across the country every year or something
right.
Like that. So I was like, because I was like, damn, dude, I think that'd be so cool. You don't need to be a part of an actual college staff. And he's like, well, you got to think about it this way. I'm like, okay, that does make a lot of sense.
So, it's so interesting too, because it's just like now, I mean, I say, boys and girls, because like I have 2 daughters, and like obviously I'm repping a WNBA hat. I'm really big into women's sports, and I've always been kind of pretty big into women's sports since like the initial WNBA started and stuff like that. Like, to quick story, basically, I got into women's basketball because like my brother was a basketball player, but like we're military brats, so we moved a lot. And right before we moved, Rebecca Lobo was just crushing it at UConn, and I wrote her a letter, and she wrote me a letter back, like, and I still have that letter. But it's like she was going off to the Olympics. I was like, dude, this. So then they came back from the Olympics and they started the WNBA, and I've been a big fan ever since. But I think the women's game in a lot of instances, while it doesn't necessarily always get all the eyeballs, like is so much better of a game. So it's like now I think a lot of people see sports as like a cool option, like women, men, doesn't matter. Like everyone kind of has that. A lot of people have that baseline, or they have some sport that they kind of like watch, and so it's obviously always like the dream. You're like, oh, if I could just work with it, but then you have practicals. Like sometimes this job don't pay super well. Sometimes sometimes doesn't make sense for you to get $12,000 a year to go 7 states away, where next year you might be 7 states this way. Like
right.
No, so practicality of things sometimes.
So school me on the WNBA a little bit. I don't think we talk about the WNBA in this podcast. So
wow.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I love the WNBA.
I'm not a big WNBA guy. So what for a very casual? I love basketball.
Yeah.
I'll watch just about any basketball game. What should I know about the WNBA? Obviously, I know like Sabrina Ionescu out of Oregon. I'm in Oregon. They're my second team for sure. You have Breanna Stewart. I know she just signed a deal with Puma. She's getting a signature shoe.
Yep.
Really cool. Candace Parker plays the Chicago Sky. Go Sky. I guess they're technically my team because I'm a Chicago, Illinois guy. Just tell what should I need to know about the WNBA?
So the thing you should know about the WNBA, first off, if you're a Sabrina fan, the night is open as we're recording this. Night is opening night of the WNBA. They just started. Sabrina, the New York Liberty played the Indiana Fever in the first game of the season, and then a couple games started afterwards. But like it was the first full game that played. She hit a game-winning 3 with like 0.4 seconds left, so already off to a hot start this season. But WNBA, it's super interesting, super fun. There's 12 teams. There should be like 16 teams because literally like the players that got waived off some of these rosters like should be on some WNBA franchise basically. So I see the elevation of the game getting to where they are expanding probably in the next couple of years. They had a couple teams that have become defunct over the years, but it's the longest running women's professional league at 25. This is the 25th season. No other league's gone over really 10. I think the next closest was 12. So it really has held on. I know some people are like,
We're back. It wouldn't be the brew party if there wasn't something that got fucked up. So the recording got fucked up. So we're talking about the WNBA. I'm going to re-ask Tone the question. Tell me about the WNBA like I'm like 5 years old. Explain it to me. What do I need to know about the WNBA?
All right. So the thing you need to know about the WNBA, 12 teams, too much talent that is already not even on a team. So they need to expand. The president of the league has kind of hinted that in the next couple of years, they will look into expansion now that teams are like really steady, because you had a couple teams fold early on, but it's the longest running women's professional sports league ever. They're at 25 years this year. I think the next closest was 12 years. Most of them fold before 10 years. So it's actually like the first time really where like a generation of athletes like Sabrina Ionescu, who hit a game-winning shot tonight, grew up thinking she could play in a professional league. Like a lot of people don't realize, like, it's like it's still a baby league. Like, I mean, and to look at in comparison, like the NBA when they were at year 25, they had 12 teams. Like people are like, oh, the NBA makes billions of dollars. It's like, yeah, they've been around for almost 100 years. Like, it's It happened, So, give it time. It's starting to grow. The thing that gives me promise with the WNBA as a business is that you got people who know how to investing in it. So, former athlete or former WNBA player Renee Montgomery and a buyers group bought the Atlanta Dream, so put their money into it. So they were, they bought it out. But some of these teams have also switched hands in the offseason. The Las Vegas Aces were bought by Mark Davis.
Okay.
So owner of the Raiders.
PF Chang's lover.
Mark Davis. Sir. Terrible haircut having Mark Davis. Totally sidetracked. Did you see that in the new stadium they're gonna put like a fucking club?
There's a club in the end zone. Like who do they think is gonna go to that? Like I like to think they think that it's gonna be like all young people, but it's gonna be like last fucking Raiders fans. Or they said it on Pardon My Take, but like they need to put the black hole in the club, like just like the dude in the gorilla suit, a bunch of people like paint it up, bro.
Damn right.
That would be so good.
It's wild. But people like that are investing. People like Mark Davis are investing. And then the Minnesota Timberwolves are getting sold to Alex Rodriguez. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, and the Lynx are a part of that, right?
Yeah, the Lynx are part of that. So Alex Rodriguez will own the Lynx. So people who have done well in business for the most part and like are trying to get ahead. I think, and I don't know this for a fact, I should have looked it up. I don't pay too much attention to the Dallas Wings because I'm still bitter that they kind of like trickled down from like my Detroit Shock that are no longer a team. They became Tulsa Shock and then they became the Dallas Wings. So I kind of just forget. I like to forget their franchise, but I think Cuban might have some stakes in that too. So people who know what they're doing and know how to invest are investing in these teams. And I can only imagine it's a matter of time before like a actual NBA player like LeBron James, something like that, dips his toe in the water and gets a franchise or some of those groups. So I'm excited for the future of it. Like I said, 25 years and started out with a bang. Sabrina Ionescu is like literally like the Michael Jordan, LeBron James level athlete in that sport. And she, in case like people who didn't watch Oregon basketball know, she was like the surefire number one pick no matter what when she came out. She went to the market in New York, so she plays for the New York Liberty, which is a massive market. And then on top of that, like in college, like she was triple double queen. She had 26. The next closest person has 12. That's on men's or women's. Like
that's insane.
And luckily, I was in the stands for one of those when she played Colorado. I took my daughters. We were like three rows back, and actually afterwards, the coolest thing, and this is kind of a long-winded story, but this is why I feel like the WNBA, and you guys need to know this, is after that game, everybody in that stadium, and it wasn't a sold-out stadium, but she spent an hour on the court signing autographs and taking photos. Like, and that was an away game. like it wasn't abnormal. Like they had it set up, like they knew it was going to happen after the game. So my daughter's got a picture with her, got signatures with the stuff. And it's like, it's like those kind of stars come along, and then it shows other people that, those stars come along. And you got like the Candace Parker, she's on the NBA shows, pre-shows and post-shows, as well as playing. You got Shinny Agumokwe. I could never pronounce her last name.
I know who you're talking about, but I'm not even going to try to say the name because I'm going to fuck it up.
Ogwumake, I think is that how you pronounce it, but it's hard to say when you say her first name.
She does the show with Golick Jr., right?
Yep.
Yeah, she's great.
And you might have seen her on like DoorDash commercials and like a bunch of other. She's on a ton of commercials. So like it's just like you're starting to see like this groundswell of like momentum behind it. I think in the next 25 years, I know that's kind of crazy to say, but like in the next 25 years, I think you'll see it get to the level of like 80s basketball NBA, like where it was like, hey, this thing's going to be like a moneymaker no matter what, full blown league and everything. So,
all right, cool.
So the thing I always preach to everybody, and I brought up Tanner earlier. So Tanner became a Dallas Wings fan because he asked what team he should pick, but literally like get in on the ground floor, like find it, like imagine if you got to go back and be like, I was on the ground floor of when the NBA or NFL became a thing. Like Think about how cool that would be. Like, that's why you should be a WNBA fan. Also, if you just want to watch a couple games and you're not sure about it, well, their entire season of NBA League Pass is $16.99.
That's insane.
Like, just get it. Like, you spent $16 on something way worse.
Yeah, absolutely. I've spent way more money on worse shit than fucking WNBA League Pass for sure, dude.
Yeah.
What do you think about these players having to go play overseas in the offseason for the WNBA? I mean, I think it's great for like expanding basketball and stuff like that. But man, I think we need to pay these women a little bit more. But I think that also comes with, there's only 12 teams in the league. You're talking about it like you need to grow it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is they've recently made a lot of massive changes. Like their new CBA basically raised the minimum set or the average salary from 40,000 to like 80,000. Mm-hmm. And like the top players can now they were capped at, the top players were making like 120,000. Now capped, like if they hit every incentive and all that stuff, can make like 600,000. So like the top players can start making more money. There's more money to go around. They actually got I think a lot of people are confused is like, they're like, oh, WNBA players want to be paid like NBA players, which eventually, yeah, that's what they want. But what they were asking for really was, we want a fair share of the revenue, which people are like, the WNBA loses money. Mm-hmm. Doesn't though. And they were only getting 22% of the revenue share, where in the NBA, they get like a 51% share. So they wanted something more comparable to that, which I think they got up to like 45%, which has bumped some stuff up. So in a growing league now, some of those players can actually stay here in the off season and do things like go on TV and like, be the face of a league, where it's like, now, like you might be like watching an NBA game and be like, oh, Candace Parker's hilarious. Oh, did you see that turnaround jumper she made on Shaq and heels? And then they're like, oh, she plays for the Sparks now, the Sky or whatever. But it's like, yeah, now I'm going to tune in. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that is like, that helps grow it domestically, because it's already going to be picked up, outside of like just sports in general. They get paid a ton more to play overseas, Yeah. So they make the bulk of their money overseas.
That's so crazy, because you think about it, like I have a couple buddies that I'm lucky to call buddies, the guys that, I grew up with and, kind of went to high school with, have known for a long time, that have been able to go overseas and play basketball. Like Michael Finke, he played for the University of Illinois, now plays in Netherlands. Jordan Caroline, I went to high school with, he played for the University of Nevada. He just finished up a stint over in Chinese Taipei, I think, or like Taiwan or something like that. He was on the Lakers like G League team. And I'm just so fascinated with that whole world of European basketball and all the different leagues, and like how, like, I don't want to say how much they're making, but like how does it compare? And then those women's leagues over there are huge. Like aren't Brittany Griner and Breanna Stewart on the same team in Russia? That's like, I can't do. That's fucking awesome. That's
they had like what was the equivalent of a WNBA All-Star team? Basically, they had like Courtney Vandersloot. They had who plays with Chicago, Allie Quigley, who plays for Chicago, who's Courtney Vandersloot's wife. And then they had like Emma Meesman, who plays for the Mystics. Like she won Finals MVP 2 years ago. Like they had like just a stacked team, but the other teams in the league are stacked too. Like they're like, because a lot of those players go over there and they usually play for like 2 or 3 teams. And because the owner pays, and basically the owner's like, hey, I have money. Like these like outrageous like billionaires. They're like, I have money. I want to have a team and I want it to be good. So here's what we're going to compensate you. And it's usually really good money, including that, like a couple years ago, we lost Diana Taurasi for a season because her Euro team was like, we'll pay you $1 million to sit out of the WNBA. The rest.
Cash that check.
When at the time, like Diana Taurasi, who is like the Michael Jordan of the sport, like she's the GOAT. Everyone, if you hear WNBA GOAT, they're talking about Diana Taurasi. Literally is like made like at the time was 120,000. You know what I mean? Like,
You're right.
you know what I mean?
I'm
So
gonna
then
take $1
when you
million.
have people like Brianna Stewart, you know, getting signature shoes, it's going to be the first signature shoe in 11 years since Candace Parker had one in 2010. You know, so it's like you're starting to see more and more stuff. But yeah, I mean, the overseas has shown that it's a viable option. Like people are going to watch it. I mean, when the world shut down, people were watching Korean League baseball.
Oh yeah,
You know
I
what mean?
definitely.
Like,
Oh yeah. Let's go Dinos. That was my KBO team. And I'll say as the self-proclaimed Chicago Sky fan, you know, when Elena Delle Donne left to go to the Mystics, that one still hurts. That one still hurts.
the crazy part is like y'all are just terrible at losing the MVP. before Elena Delle Donne left, you guys lost Sylvia Fowles to the Lynx, and she won the MVP right before. I mean,
who could forget?
But, yeah, so it's wild. So you know, it's like some of these teams, like they're stacked. So like you have a lot of talent in the league, and if you watch a couple games, you're gonna be like, oh, like I guarantee you, if you go in with an open mind and you watch like 5 games, you're gonna be like, yeah, I'm never gonna say I could beat a women's professional basketball player again.
Listen, brother, if you saw me in person and saw the way I move, that's not an issue here.
But you got too many dudes who are like, why would I watch that? I could beat them. Like, and you're like,
right.
No,
you know, I mean,
though.
what I'm like 6'2", 6'3" range, about 240, 250. So, you know, I don't know how many of these ladies could hold me in the paint, but they would just like run right by me and just score a layup like every time. Like, absolutely. Absolutely, man. So, I just had what I was going to say. So you've been retweeted by the WNBA. So listen to everything this man's saying. He's an aficionado. Aficionado.
That got a lot of retweets. Holy shit.
That was awesome, dude. I saw that when you posted that and I was like, holy shit, dude. That was so cool.
Yeah. And that's the other cool thing about, if you want to be a fan of a league, the WNBA is super, super good at like fan engagement, like especially the teams at the team level. Super engagement. I mean, it's crazy. Like, I mean, I actually love the WNBA. It's like I am a genuine fan. Like I don't even have a team. That's how much of a fan I am. Like, because my team got disbanded, but so I genuinely just root for everybody. But like, my daughter plays, you know, AAU basketball and dreams of playing in the WNBA. So it's like, yeah, why not? Why? I mean, I already watch it. Like, let's watch it together. Yeah. As a matter of fact, right now in my front room, my wife and my two girls are watching a WNBA game because like, so it's
that's awesome, bro.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. It's cool. It's an interactive league and it's growing. And if you want to get on the ground floor of like what's going to be like probably in 25 years, like a really stellar, solid like league that you're going to be like, oh man, that came out of nowhere. Like, no, it takes time, you know. So you could be on the ground floor.
Get in on the ground floor. And I feel like the game is like even in good hands because, you know, this March, I feel like the women's college tournament did really well and had a lot of buzz. And you had a team that was so good as Baylor. And then you had Paigey Buckets up at UConn. Like, I think there are more stars coming into the WNBA. So that was our little WNBA segment on the Brew Party. That's a first episode. Only took me 61 episodes to get that on the podcast. Thank you so much for informing me, Tone. I really appreciate that. So
also, Stellar, if you're, I don't know how close you are to Chicago, but if you
2.5 hours, 2 hours.
Okay, like if you ever, you know, get a wild hair and want to go see a game, like, I mean, luckily you're close to, you know, the Sky have it, you know.
And I'm only an hour and a half away, probably maybe 2 hours from Indy, so I can go see a Fever game if I wanted to. So I'm like Central Illinois, man, like right smack dab in the middle.
No, that's a great spot to be in. Yeah, so like you can catch either one of those, and you know, with 12 teams, you're going to be able to, you know, go see the.
I meant to say that. It's so crazy. There's only 12 teams because it feels like there should be more. What cities do you think should have a WNBA team, real quick, off the top of your head? I mean, you'll probably say Detroit again.
I'm mad contrarian when it comes to this kind of stuff because I kind of like to think, like we've already established, I think outside of the box a little. I think where the WNBA kind of screwed up a little bit was honestly, and you see a lot of correction now. One of the things they realize is like they put the New York Liberty in Madison Square Garden to start, right? You're like, that's a massive venue. Like, So when people tune in, they're like, all the seats aren't filled. You're like, yeah, the Knicks don't even fill that shit half the time. But like, so it's like everyone will talk about it. Well, the Barclays Center actually built them their own stadium, and they fill that shit out. So it's like filled. The Washington Mystics do the same thing now. So like, with that being said, I think where the WNBA could really make major strides is I live like an hour 10 from Denver.
Okay.
Colorado Springs, which is where the area I live in, is a pretty decent sized area. We used to have a AAA team. So, those kind of.
Actually, I just watched The Dozen last night. It's the largest city that starts with a C west of the Mississippi.
I'm not surprised. But like a venue like that, where it's like, I don't always want to drive an hour, 10 minutes to go see the Nuggets play.
Right.
So
hey, they're in fourth place. They got the MVP this year.
I know, but like, I'm like, give me a WNBA team in Colorado Springs that's close enough to where you could draw the traffic from Denver.
Oh yeah.
But I can see good basketball here.
The Colorado Springs Olympians, is that what we want to call them?
Yeah, I mean, something like that. But like where you like Champaign would probably be a really interesting place to have.
They could play at the State Farm Center. They could play right where my guy Georgie right here, amazing for the Illini. But
like cities like that are close to major cities that are big cities in their own right. Like, I'll be 1,000% honest. Like, I think like and it makes just natural sense. But like, why doesn't Tennessee Nashville have a team? What the fuck doesn't Nashville have a team? You have the Tennessee Volunteers, which is one of the bigger college women's basketball programs of all time. Yep, you already got like people flowing in there. It's a tourist destination, so like you're gonna have traffic through there. So go put a fucking the Nashville Dolly Parton fucking, I don't know what the fuck team you'd call them, but like
Nashville Dolly Partons.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
we'll get in on the ground floor. Anybody want to get in an investor? We'll get some fire uniforms going with a big old dolly on it. That's so funny,
dude. And that's the other cool thing about the WNBA is like they do a lot of innovative shit. Like they just released 3 new jerseys. So I don't know if you saw the new Indiana jerseys, but they're themed like Stranger Things.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah,
so
yeah.
Super tight. The same, they're called like Rebel uniforms. There's something else, but the Mystics one, cool enough. Like for like somebody who has a daughter, and like my daughter is a Mystics fan, Elena Deladon's her like favorite player. Like they have a Rise jersey, and it like has like a white stripe with like, you can very faintly see it, but it's got gold writing, and it's literally the like it's the 19th Amendment, the women's right to vote. Like on the jerseys, like stuff like that. They're such an innovative league, and they've done some cool stuff. They actually just created the Commissioner's Cup, which is like kind of like a feel from like the soccer leagues over.
Yeah.
So they just got a lot going on, and it's like a really cool league. I definitely think they should get more teams, but a team somewhere that's not a major city, but where like, I'll be honest with you, Colorado Springs is cool, but we'll pack out this like minor league tier of like Major League Soccer that they're just building. They just built a brand new stadium. We'll pack that thing out here.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Go to cities that have demand for professional sports. I mean, you talk about Nashville, they do have the Predators and the Titans, but they don't have a basketball team.
Nope.
I think they have a AAA baseball team that sounds, I think that's what they are. But yeah, go for cities like that. Or what about like St. Louis? Like I think you have the Cardinals and the Blues, the big Cardinals Blues town there for sure, but throw it, and they are getting a soccer team too. But I think that's a really good idea, man.
I think you definitely, you could either attack it in a couple of different ways. Either attack it where like, what are the major college women's like basketball programs that have like fans that pack it? Like UConn packs their shit. Like, of course, UConn's a net.
Go Hartford, like you put a team in Hartford, or do you like Oregon's a good school? You put a team in Portland.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And then that's the second tier, right? It's like the women's soccer league that's out there, because you guys have the Red Stars there.
Chicago Red Stars, big fan.
And so owned by ESPN's Sarah Spain.
JJ Watt's wife, or what? I'm sorry, what's her name?
It's Kia.
I shouldn't call her JJ Watt's wife.
It's like Keone, something like that.
Keone, yes, yeah, absolutely.
But like, I thought JJ Watt was going to the Bears for that reason. By the way, just
Oh, we don't have to get into that. Yeah,
but,
it was definitely when he did post that like cryptic shit on Twitter. It was like, oh, I love the Chicago food, and he posted like he was on the balcony and it was all snowy, and it's like,
for JJ's brand. Tell me that wouldn't have been the most genius thing ever.
It would have been great. Come on, JJ. But I mean,
would have been the geniuses. Like, he's already like America's darling. Could you imagine if he was like, I'm gonna go play in Chicago so I could be with my wife? Like,
oh yeah, bro. Come on. Can you blame the guy for wanting to go to Scottsdale though? Exactly. It's 75 and sunny all the time, or it's fucking 40 degrees and windy 8 months out of the year.
Where does that? This is my new one. So Zach Ertz is going to be on the move. I feel like. Where does Julie Ertz play? Why do I not know where the fuck she's at?
Oh no.
Does she play in Chicago?
I thought she did. Honestly, I have to Google it.
Now that I'm thinking about it, she might play in Chicago.
I love where this conversation just turned to. Chicago Red Stars, let's go. You can tell how big of a fan I am of the Red Stars that I know.
By the way, Julie Ertz plays for the national team. By the way, women's soccer is much more.
Is way better than the U.S. men's soccer.
I think I just confirmed. I just broke news. You guys are getting Zach Ertz. Just like.
Dude, can you imagine if we got Ertz and JJ Watt? Like with the double dates would be absolutely insane. Just tearing up the Chicago. And then
the Bulls get like no. I guess she doesn't play for them, but I guess she doesn't. I don't think she plays actually anymore. But Drew Holiday's wife, Lauren Holiday.
Yeah, she was on the national team too. Oh shit. By
the way, you can't tell I'm a pretty big fan of women's sports.
Yeah. After this whole like 20, 30 minutes, we just went in on it. My connection to WNBA is kind of cool. So I've been, when I was in school at Illinois State, I got to do play-by-play for a women's basketball game.
Oh, yeah.
It was actually the first game they won of the year. And,
oh, shit.
Yeah, and they played Loyola Chicago. And Cheryl Swopes was the Loyola Chicago's head coach.
Yeah.
And I actually got to like do like a press interview real quick, like with her.
Nice.
Not just me, but all I got to stand in the crowd, but it was like, this close to Cheryl Swopes. I'm like, holy shit, this is really cool. But that was dropping like from some girl hit a three and I was like from Jimmer range. But that was one of my favorite memories from college. Where I was getting to call that women's basketball game. Roll Bird, shout out! You can see it right behind me. So
I love it. I mean, at the end of the day, like if this is not to like get on soapbox, but like as somebody who has daughters, like you're like, and just naturally, like I was raised by my dad. My dad was in the military. So he was out to sea a lot. I was raised by like my grandma, my mom, like, aunts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of respect for women in general, just for like what they do. And this is like a little bit post like Mother's Day, but like, I mean, if you really think about all the shit moms do, I mean, it's fucking absurd. Like, like they should get like 6 days, like fucking.
Oh yeah.
but like if you strip away like gender from, sports, a good basketball game is a good basketball game. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Nice.
If you're a hoop fan, you just want to see a good game, or just a sports fan in general. That's what when I turn something on, I go, unless it's, me watching, the Bears or Illinois or one of my teams, I was like, I hope they just fuck them up. If I'm like watching a game, I just want it to be a good game. I just want it to be interesting. So, and I don't care who's fucking playing, if it's women or not, man. But thank you, seriously, thank you for sharing all of this with me. That's awesome.
I'm a one man converting people into
hashtag girl dad, Tone Gordon.
For sure. I'm gonna like legit one by one convert people. Like we're gonna start seeing Andy tweets of Chicago.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna live. I'm gonna get some Chicago Sky tickets. You can see me. All right, I'm here in the arena. Do they play at Allstate Arena? Do they play in Rosemont, or they don't play at the United Center, do they?
I don't. Ooh, I think they might have been one of the teams that is in the process of converting to their own thing. They were playing in the United Center, I think, for a while.
Give it a quick goog.
It's so screwy.
Wintrust Arena. So yeah, they play in Yeah. Wintrust
Yeah,
Arena.
it was so screwy after last year in the bubble. I was like, and then teams were like converting and ready to like start playing in some of these things. So I'm like, where are they at? I can't remember.
Okay. So yeah, it's DePaul. It's DePaul's
Yeah.
gym. Yeah. So it's actually in Chicago. Okay. Yeah. That's
Nuts.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's talk about you a little bit more,
Yeah.
man. I know we kind of just went off on a real tangent there, but
You just got a real look at me. I a diehard like.
no, I love it, dude. That's what I love about this podcast. I love talking to people that are passionate about something, and then that I can talk to that actually know like what they're talking about, and like educate me a little bit. I
Yeah.
love stuff here.
Well, that's the fun thing about like I'll bring up Tanner again, but like Tanner when he was on the podcast, if you go back and listen to Off the Rails with the Tanner on that episode, we go on like a 45-minute like what could the WNBA do to like expand? What should we do? Like, and like one of the things he said was like he's like, I just don't know anybody who watches the WNBA. And it's like, so like ever since then I was like, you know what? If I get a chance to talk to somebody who's a sports fan, I'm like, we're gonna talk some WNBA, because if you're a sports fan, it's good sports.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's good sports to watch. It's a low cost of investment. Like I said, $16.99 to get a freaking WNBA league pass
every game for $16.99.
I think the last time I took my daughter to a WNBA game, we got like super good seats. It was like I bought like 8 tickets and they were like $10 each. Like so, like the cost of the barrier of entry is like so small. Like to go see basketball, like you pay more than that to go see a high school girls game, probably.
Right, or even if you don't have a WNBA team, go see your local college play. It's good basketball. I mean, I know you spoke earlier about, they show the arenas and they're not full. Like that's definitely depending on where you watch. In college, you
get a lot more packed.
Yeah.
Because you have it's just that you're rooting for your team.
It's natural, and it's like I can speak as living in a college town. It doesn't matter really what sport that like the U of I is good at.
Yeah.
If they have like a team that's good, like people are going to show up. Like Champaign-Urbana is a community that's very, very into the Illini. So it's like it's not just the students, it's not just the university that gets a buzz. Like especially with this men's basketball team last year that ended up not working out however we thought, but they big tournament champions and all that stuff. It was like it was just different. There's different buzz around the town. So
it's definitely fun. Yeah.
Let's get into you a little bit, because I know on your podcast you were telling me you were going to the league. You were a pitcher. You were ready for the show. Let's talk about your baseball career a little bit. So railed by an injury, right?
Yeah, the same two similar injuries within the short span of time. Yeah, so I don't know if I'll bring up it happened. I don't think it happened against the Cubs, but like I'm drawing a blank on his name, but like the closer for the Dodgers, not the closer, but like one of their relievers. He has the long shaggy hair. I think his last name is May or something like that.
Dustin May.
He just blew his arm out.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch when he does it, that's basically exactly how my arm went. Like he threw the ball and he was just like, it's done. Like, you know what I mean? Like I know it's, so for me it's basically this disease is called Ehlers-Danlos. More people probably have it than know they have it, but it's like kind of this is kind of interesting story too. Is like my mom was like the president of like the Virginia chapter of it, basically like of awareness, like because it was technically not even a disease at the time, like a real diagnosed disease. Like they were learning more about it as I was a kid. My brother has it like to a like crazy extent. There's like multiple different ones, like guys like Jim Carrey. So if you see how he bends his body in weird ways, stuff like that, like those people, like he has it. But it's basically like hypermobility, like super flexible. I'll show you some that. Like basically like my skin's super like loose.
Okay.
It's gonna be stupid. So I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
But like I can literally grab it and and I still have a whole grip of my, I don't know if you can, I can't get it.
I can kind of see it. Yeah. I get the gist of what's happening over there.
Like stuff like that, like bendy, like I can take my like finger all the way to like my wrist, like stuff like that. Just so like my joints are really loose and basically like I'd never like weight lifted, a lot of cardio and stuff. College, my coach decided everybody had to lift to some level. So basically my doctor thinks I strengthened my muscles just enough to where like it put enough of strain on them that like my arm started hurting a little bit, which I was like, maybe it's, just a higher level of the game. But like I would pitch, I was a kid that would like, I'd go throw like 140 pitches a day. Like no arm pain. Like, so it's just one of those things where I put enough strain and then was throwing and it popped, lost feeling in my fingertips for like two weeks.
How weird is that? Like not being able to feel your
very strange.
Like could you still like pick stuff up and be like, okay, you just couldn't feel it, or was it just like you
like, I mean, like right when it happened, like they threw the ball, I was like, maybe it's a thing, whatever. Well, like they threw the ball back to me and I was like, I'm gonna keep pitching. Like,
yeah.
And I was like, so like I literally went to like in my glove and I was like, I can't feel the ball. Like, so I'm like, oh shit. So then I had to like call him out and whatever. And so yeah, it was a very strange feeling. I got like, I could like probably by like day 2, I could hold this drink and stuff like it, but like I still didn't have feeling in them. Ironically enough, it kind of paralleled to the start of another career that I went into, which was like playing music. The reason why I'm left-handed, but I play my guitar right-handed is that's how I got feeling and strength back in my fingers, was pushing down guitar strings. So like I taught myself how to play guitar.
Another thing you taught yourself how to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So taught myself how to record because of that, like stuff like that. But yeah, so then I rehabbed it. And then I was tossing for the Texas Rangers scouts. And about 7 pitches in, I felt the same jolt and I was like, oh fuck, that's it. And so I was like, I called off that bullpen session and then went to my doctor. My doctor at 19 was like, hey, like we've repaired your arm once. We can repair it again. Which they ended up doing. They ended up going and taking some tissues and like fixing it. But he's like, if it snaps again, which at the time, not knowing fully like with my disease, like what it would do, like, I mean, it's they were like, we don't really know. You're like unprecedented waters. Like Tommy John was just really like becoming like something that you come back from.
Right.
Like major in like the major leagues. I was like more than one guy every season was getting it like at this point now. I like to say I was in the era where they started putting pitch counts on people. Like basically like that was where like they had like four starters. Now they have like 7 starters. It's like crazy. But yeah, so basically my doctor was like, hey, like we can repair it. If it snaps again, you're probably gonna have a shaky hand for the rest of your life. Like at 19, you're like, right? Like my doc, and it's kind of so weird. It's like if I made a movie of my life, like this scene would be in it and it would be like literally like my doc being like, hey, like if it snaps again, I'm shaking hand for the rest of your life. So either pursue this dream or know that you'll probably never hold your children.
Oh man.
Like,
oh no.
I mean, like,
that took a turn. Oh,
you're like,
shit,
well,
dude.
fuck. You're like, damn, like at 19, you're like, I mean, I didn't have children at that point, but I mean,
Right, but you're still like, shit, you have your whole life ahead of you at 19.
Yeah.
And talk to me this. Here's my question. Like, obviously you've been playing baseball, I'm sure your whole life. Like, where does the love of the game and like the almost, I don't want to say loss of your hand, but like pretty much like where does that collide, dude? What's that feeling like? That's I can't even imagine.
It's wild. It's wild in the sense of like, it's, and this is like, I'll segue it together to really like the reason why like I can talk, I feel like I can have a conversation with like a Darius Butler or Antoine Bethea is like, while I didn't play major league sports, I know what it's like to have that end of your career where you're like, I'm still young and I could still probably do this, but like I gotta hang it up and now I gotta find something else. So like
there's no closure there. That's just like it's like I know if everything was right, I have this opportunity. So
it's super tough. But luckily for me, I'm the person who can like. It took a while. Like I'll be real honest. Like I didn't probably from like 19 to 26. I probably didn't watch a lot of baseball. Like,
Yeah, I bet
it
that's
just
tough.
was like, I mean, like, I'd watch it if like a buddy was playing or something like that. But like, most of the time I was like, I'm just like not going to see games. Actually, ironically enough, the when I snapped out of it, I know the exact moment. Actually, my daughter, who's 13 now, she was 3 at the time. My dad got us tickets for Tigers and Orioles because we lived pretty close. So we drove to the Orioles Stadium, and it was Matt Wieder's MLB debut. Okay. And I got a picture of me and my daughter in the stands, and that was the first game I had watched where I wasn't like, "Fuck, I should be out there." And like that was kind of like the switch over. That was probably like 2000, I don't know, 2008, 2000, something like that, 2009 maybe. So, and ever since then, I've just been back die hard. Like I love the sport. And now it's helpful because like guys that like I played AAU with or against like are pretty much retired, like David Wright and Ryan Zimmerman and those kind of guys. Like,
you played AAU ball with David Wright and Ryan Zimmerman?
Against, I pitched against both those guys.
What the fuck, dude? What? You're dropping so many names on this podcast. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So
in Virginia, Virginia Beach, it's called the Seven Cities. It's Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Norfolk, Newport News. I'm totally spacing some right now for some Suffolk. I can't remember which ones I just named, but basically the 7 cities. They're basically finger locked by the Chesapeake Bay. So you get a lot of talent from out there. Like, I mean, this is going to be like name drop central here. I'm just going to represent the 757. Guys like Antoine Bethea from there. But Mike Vick, Allen Iverson, Plaxico Burress.
Just I mean, fucking go name anybody and it's like, yeah.
Ronald Curry. And then in baseball, you got guys like Mike Kadire, but who's a little bit older than me, but like in my age group, Justin Upton, BJ Upton, David Wright, Mark Reynolds.
Bro, that's insane.
Those kind of guys, like,
that's crazy. That is fucking crazy. Cardinals legend, Mark Reynolds. I'll just throw that out there.
The funniest thing about Mark Reynolds is he would never remember this because he went on to have like a fantastic, and I never played on a team with him, but I played against him. First off, if you're not a diehard baseball fan, you probably don't realize that Mark Reynolds holds the single season record for strikeouts in a season.
Yeah, if you're not a baseball fan, it's either home run or strikeout for Mark Reynolds.
and Mark Reynolds, the only thing better than the fact that Mark Reynolds holds the record for most strikeouts in a season by a batter is that he broke his own record one year. Like, so you like got he's a home run or like.
It's either all or nothing for the guy.
He hit a curveball that I threw so hard that it's probably in 2001 that it's probably still flying. Like,
I love that you just said that because one of my questions I have written down was the longest home run somebody hit off of you.
Perfect segue. Mark Reynolds hit a 7 zillion foot bomb off me. Hold on 1 second. Sorry.
No.
By the way, this is only a second. I'll just keep it on and I'll walk through. I am currently signing into my wife's phone for WNBA League Pass because another game.
Relevant.
So so we're big WNBA fans around here. And oops. Yeah, so this is how much we get down. We actually we love the sport. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Dude, that's great. As like somebody myself, with like a little growing family, that I really, really enjoy that. It's something you guys can all do together. It's something you really all enjoy together. So getting back to this pitching though, so something I've always been curious about with pitchers, do you know as soon as you let go of the ball that like you fucked up and you missed the spot? Like when Mark Reynolds hit that, like how soon did you know that was like so far gone?
That one probably about 2 inches off my fingers. I was like, yeah, that's bad. Like the release point was bad, and I was just like, shit. I didn't know he was gonna hit it as because like again, Mark Reynolds strikeout or home run, so he could have swung through it.
Yeah,
but like I mean, it was just like watching and you're like, fuck. But like, I mean, I've had a couple of those where like you're like, fuck for sure. Like, I mean, a lot of times you're like, man, I'm like slightly off. You feel it when you're going through the game. You're like, I don't have that, like, I don't have this motion, or I don't have this motion, or I don't, you know, whatever it is, like, I don't have that tied in so much. But yeah, I've probably had about 15, 20 where I've let go of them, and it was just like, yeah, we're terrible.
Is your pitching motion not the same every time? Like, I'm sure you went out of the stretch and then.
Yeah, so I out of the stretch, I was pretty good. The wind up, my dog's getting yelled at. See, we got puppies too. The stretch was rough, but it changed like variety of times over from like high school to like college. But from my windup changed a lot. From the stretch was pretty much this identical from like the first time so I felt really comfortable when people were on base, but obviously you don't want people on base. So it's like now you see guys actually just starting in the stretch, which is very strange to me, because I'm like, I feel like you lose a little bit of power, but like, I guess if you're, you know, if it's working for you, you know, you're why not go with it, you know?
So were you like a speed guy, try to like pound him fastballs, off speed, junk guy? Like what's your favorite pitch to throw? Kind of take me through your pitching philosophy if you want to, real quick.
So my pitches were, I had a four-seam fastball, which I threw pretty good. I topped out at 93, average like right around 91. You'd get like the 89 towards the end of the game usually. I threw a really good slider. So that was like,
slider's the hardest pitch in baseball to hit, in my opinion, because you never know where the fuck that thing is going. On MLB The Show, that shit is giving me fits, dude. Like, it fools me every fucking time.
Well, it's a weird pitch. If you think about it, like a fastball is obviously straight for the most part.
Right, yeah.
The curveball, which kind of has like a hook to it. And then like legit, like a slider is like almost like cutting that shit in half, and it's just like or like you can take it from almost like any angle, really. I mean, I'd get bored sometimes, and like I'd go submarine just on one pitch, like just for the hell of it. But like a slider out of that, and it would come up. Like it was weird. Like, I mean, it was fun to fuck around with. But like the slider was my strike. I loved striking people out on slider. Like, it was super fun. But I'll be honest with you, like, probably looking back on it, my best pitch was my changeup. Like, I threw a circle change, started as a Vulcan change, which is like it's almost like this, like, weird, like, you can't, if you're not watching, you can't see it, but like your fingers are basically like pronged out. It's like real fucking weird. And think of like the fucking, you know, Vulcan, like,
literally, yeah.
Like, and then putting your fingers on a baseball like that and throwing it. Which stupidly, back to trading cards, there was a set, I think it was Pinnacle, like 89 or some shit like that, and like it literally was like guys like Greg Maddux, and it would show Greg Maddux pitching, and then it would show his like his hand, like with the ball in it, like as like with a black backdrop. So I basically learned, I stole all of those, like how to hold balls, like, and like the fucking Vulcan one was like some pitcher from the fucking Pirates, and it was like, okay, like, I'm gonna like.
You don't see a lot of dudes that throw Vulcan change, so I'm very, very into the Vulcan change.
Yeah, I don't even know if anyone does throw it.
Right, that is something you don't hear a lot, dude.
Like, I really can't. Like, I'm like legit. Like, I don't know if anyone throws it anymore.
Did you have a strikeout celebration like that you would do like on the fist bump, or you keep it pretty casual?
No, I was pretty casual for the most part. Like, I mean, if it was like the end of the game, like maybe, but like for the most part, it was like super casual. Like, I was like, I'm not like, it's not like because like unwritten rules of baseball or anything like that. It's like just like I was like, my job, like, and maybe this is like tells you a little bit about my brain, but like my job basically was like, hey, like, you have, in a sense, like, when you go into a game, there's 27 outs in a game, but like, so you're like, oh, we're playing, we'll just use two teams. The Chicago White Sox playing the Chicago Cubs. Okay, the Chicago Cubs pitcher should go out there and they're like, yeah, we're playing the Chicago White Sox. My brain, I'm like, I'm gonna go out and play this guy 3 times and then this guy 3. I'm playing 27 different games. Like, after that strikeout or after that hit, on to the next game. Like it's like,
right.
So it's like I very much lived the like goldfish brain mentality. Like,
I think you kind of have to have that though. You have to have a short memory because especially, somebody hits a bomb off you, like you said,
yeah,
or, you give up a hit or something, you next man up. So it's different. Um,
yeah. So not to like toot my own horn, but after Mark Reynolds hit a 7 zillion foot bomb off me, I struck out 9 guys straight. So it's like,
oh, you should have said that
like,
first.
yeah.
That's a hell of a way to bounce back from a fucking home run,
including Mark Reynolds as the ninth guy. So
I'm not shocked that you struck him out again after that.
Well, I mean, it's 50-50, so it's either gonna hit a home
I only got a couple more questions for you, man, and then we'll go ahead and close this out. I really, really thank you for joining me. This has been so fun, dude. What's the mindset like as a pitcher? So obviously you got to get through the 9 the first time around. Second time around, like how different is it?
For me, not much, because it was like, for me, it was like they've seen you before, obviously, but like you're like it's that at bat for me. It was like every time it's just like that at bat is that at bat, like that's where I'm going with it. And it's like I'm gonna do my research on you, so like I'm gonna know where I need to throw this ball, and I'm gonna know where your weaknesses are. A couple guys that I faced that I knew were like super good hitters, like you would definitely set them up for later in the game. Like if they're bad curveball hitter or slider hitter, like I might not even throw them a slider in my first attempt through the lineup because my arm's going to be good enough to like maybe get something past them speed velocity wise, and then I'll show them something different the second time. But a lot of times it's just step by step by step, like it's the guy up. And a lot of times, to be honest with you, and I'm probably a weirdo when it comes to this stuff, but like you couldn't even really, other than the fact that I knew because I knew their weaknesses, I never really thought of the batter in the batter's box as like the person or whatever. Like it was like,
you kind of have to be like that. That's like, fuck this dude. I don't care. We're just striking him out. But also, I like what you said. Like pitchers kind of have to be weirdos. Like you have to kind of have your routine and like all this certain shit you need to do, man. We are a bunch of
weirdos for sure. Like I was just telling my wife about this actually, because like I said, our daughter plays basketball, and I'm like, man, I don't know, like it's just weird because I'm pretty mild mannered away from the field. Like I'm like not like anything. But like the second I would hop over the third base or first base line, it was like game mode. Like it's just like it just turned on. It was like so kind of one of those weird things.
Man. I've talked to other athletes like that. I remember, Deion Thomas, who played at the University of Illinois, actually the all-time leading scorer on the basketball team. He does radio for the team now. I had the privilege of talking to him, and I was like,
awesome.
I go, what's that like? I'm sure, he grew up in Chicago. Like everybody knows in Chicago in that basketball scene's like, I'm sure you've played against your friends before. Like, what's that like? Sure. He goes, I don't have any friends on the court. They go, I want to kill everybody. It doesn't matter how friendly we are before. Once we step on the field, it's over. Once we step on the court, it's over. I love that about athletes like that killer instincts.
You kind of have to, though. I mean,
you have to, exactly. Especially you're talking about being a pitcher. Like that is one of the most mental whole things. Like baseball as a whole,
doesn't get enough credit for those kind of things. Like honestly, like I'll be honest with you, it's a boring game if you're not
a fan of it. Yeah.
Like so, I get it, but like also at the same time, you're like, it's so fun. So why did it like if you can get past, it kind of goes back to what we're talking about with the WNBA. If you can get past like the barrier of entry, you're like, oh yeah, this is fucking awesome. Like I can get down on this. It's just learning the sport and like learning like where the guys are like, ups or downs or like the things behind it. You're like, why are people mad at Fernando Tatis for flipping his bat? You're like, because it's unwritten rules.
60 years old and they've been watching baseball since they were
the unwritten rules of baseball.
5 unwritten. Oh, the terrible.
As a pitcher, people are like, people like are probably shocked, but like I'm like Trevor Bauer. I'm like, yo, if you hit a fucking 600-foot jack off me, celebrate that shit. I don't give a fuck. Like,
right.
One, because I got a goldfish mentality. I don't care. If I'm holding on to that, you win. Like I mentioned, I think actually on the latest episode of Off the Rails, me and Jems, because Jems also pitched. I was like, dude, and we agree. Like, you're like, if you hit a home run, maybe there's some scenarios you don't. Like, maybe you don't need a bat flip if you're 14 up 14-0 and you hit a home run. Like,
right.
Probably
like,
just chill out. But if it's a
take
close
the
game,
lead, or first home run of the game, or if you just absolutely crush it, like flip the bat, like celebrate a little bit. You just hit the ball like 450 feet. Like, come on.
But it's also the dumbest thing ever, though, too. It's like, and you're a parent, so you'll get this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if my kid is like eats a Pop-Tart, right? Okay, but then like after he's done eating his Pop-Tart, he flips his plate over because he ate his Pop-Tart so good. And then I punished him with giving him another Pop-Tart. That's really all they're doing. Like, this dude hit a 700-foot home run off you. So you know what I'm going to do next time you come up? I'm going to hit you and give you a free base.
Yeah. That's great. That's great.
It makes no sense.
I really hope my son flips his plate next time I give him something. Probably just feed it to the dog anyways.
A Pop-Tart for you. Shit.
That's great, bro. If you were to throw a baseball right now, how fast do you think you could throw it? I know you said you have the the issue and the disease in the arm.
Ooh. This is probably a good. Like, honestly, me and Jems were just talking about this on the podcast, and we never came to like a total. But because we segued it, because our podcast called Off the Rails, we segued into the story of Jim Morris, who the movie The Rookies.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I wonder what I could throw. If we're doing one pitch, I'm just trying to max out. Like, I'm just doing a max out. I could probably blow my arm out at like 83 right now.
That's still a lot faster than fucking a lot of people could throw. I'll take that.
And then I wouldn't be able to feel my arm for like 2 weeks. But like,
you might need a little TJ surgery yourself.
Yeah. But if I was like trying to like pitch like a 9-inning game, I'd probably be somewhere in like the low 70s, I'd guess. Like, conservatively, like I'd probably be throwing a lot of off-speed shit. Like,
yeah, just trying to throw junk. Those are my favorite pitchers, anyways. The ones that just try to fool you. All right, dude. Tone, this has been so fun, dude. We got to get you back on the podcast sometime soon.
Definitely. Jem sends his apologies that he couldn't make it either. He was like bummed out he couldn't make it.
Fucking White Sox fans, dude.
I told them we just have to get you on sometime.
Hey, well, anytime you need a guest, I'm more than happy to jump on with you guys, or that trivia thing you were telling me about that you guys plan on doing. Let me know.
Definitely.
Iron Ostrich Network, hit us up. This is a one-man operation over here. I'd love to have 7 other people that I could have do my shit for me. I'm just playing, but seriously,
I wish. Fuck.
Tone, let's plug your stuff real quick. Tell everybody where they can find you on Twitter, because you're a great follow on Twitter. Not a big deal. 1,200 followers, ladies and gentlemen. Producer of the Man to Man podcast, Antoine, Bethea, and Darius Butler, and the host of Off the Rails with Tone and Jems. Tone Gordon, it's your time. Whatever you want to plug, tell us all about it.
All right, I'll try to do this as like systematically as possible so you can follow. So if you want to follow me, you can find me at patch, like a patch you wear, like a patch on a hat, of black, like the color black. DFS stands for Daily Fantasy Sports. Started that account as like a daily fantasy sports thing.
Mm-hmm.
So patch of black DFS. That's where you find me on Twitter. I tweet up from there all the time. If you want to find my podcast, Off the Rails, it's Off the Rails _pod on Twitter. And then the Man to Man pod, it's at the Man to Man pod. And you go follow. If you're not following already, go follow Darius and Antoine. Antoine's is at Bethea 41, and Darius is at Darius J Butler. Those guys are really good follows too. So, and then be on the lookout. We don't have any socials for DeQuell's podcast yet, but I'm sure we will. And then if you're following me, I'll tweet those out, so you can find that one.
Perfect, man.
So if you're interested in listening to a guy who caught the ball that started Deflategate, interview people. Yeah,
I am. That's fucking awesome, dude. This guy, like, seriously, this whole podcast was just a series of name drops. And dude, this guy's played against.
Hopefully it wasn't terrible. And people are like, this guy's a dude.
You'll just wait for the comments we get on this one, man. So, Tone Gordon from Off the Rails with Tone and Jems, Iron Ostrich Podcast Network. Yeah. Thank you so much, man. This seriously, I had a blast. I apologize for the technical difficulties.
Oh no, I had some too. Don't worry.
It's not a regular Brew Party episode without something stupid happening. So, episode 61 of the Brew Party podcast. You can find us on YouTube, youtube.com/the Brew Party, or wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, all of that good stuff, or www.thebrewparty.com has all of our episodes with links to listen and all of our social media links as well. Go ahead and throw us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at the Brew Party. We're so close to 300 followers on Instagram. I think we're at like 287 or something.
That's awesome.
Getting up, trying to get up there, trying to build something. And then on Facebook at the Brew Party Podcast. Would love to have you guys join the party. And then also, as a quick announcement for me, I will be joining the All Sports All Plays Network as an analyst on some of their shows throughout the week, starting with the NBA playoffs recaps we're about to do starting next week. I want to give a special shout out to Freddie Henderson for bringing me on there. So the Brew Party is not a part of that, but it's just me. I'll be joining as analyst, hopping on some of their shows week to week from time to time. So look out for that. Follow them on Facebook, All Sports, All Plays Network.
Andy building the brand.
I'm trying to build the brand, man. You know, you get these Facebook messages, and how do I say no? A bigger platform to me to sound fucking stupid and spit out these hot takes? Come on, man. Too easy. Tone, thank you so much, dude. This is so great. Episode 61 of the Brew Party is live. Check out my appearance on Off the Rails with Tone and Jems. We had a great time. We did an alcohol draft that I was very, very basic white bitch during that. So, but anyway, this has been the Brew Party podcast. You guys take it easy.
Wait, so when did you know what was happening?
I knew this was happening before it was happening.
Always knew I'd be like this. I always knew I'd spit like this. I always knew I'd get these chips. I always knew I'd be like this. Always knew I'd be like that. I always knew I'd get that bag. I always knew I'd fuck that bitch. I always knew I'd be like this.